You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
I love this. Matt Dalton writes in, tuning in live from Belfast today. We love to hear that. It's a Tuesday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill. How we doing, Rosie?
I'm doing good, Belfast. Thanks for listening. Been there. Love it. I like it when we hear that people are all over the world listening to this whole thing. But it is game day for everybody. And yeah, I guess I'm doing good, man. Battle of the basement. Who would have thought?
Pretty. It is surreal. We're sitting here on December 2nd, and the two teams that met up in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, winner gets out of the basement, loser is in the basement in the Eastern Conference. But it really is amazing when you look at these two teams. Nobody's talking about the Florida Panthers, who have won back-to-back Stanley Cups. It's all eyes firmly on the Maple Leafs, yet they have the same amount of points, right?
Oh, yeah, that's why people go down to Florida to hide. But it's wild. They've got some injury issues as well, and they just haven't been performing. Goaltending's been meh, which we felt at the beginning of the season. Defensively, they've been a bit of a wreck. So battle of the basement from the two top teams, arguably, in the Atlantic last year. Pretty wild stuff. But I did not see a win coming on Saturday against Pittsburgh. Pulled her off. Okay, I wonder about this game. You know, Florida is going to be pissed off. They're going to be hungry. You know, they feel like they're in the Leafs' head. We will find out what they have and where these two teams sit today. Because, man, I just want to see some patterns. I just want to see something, follow suit with this team. And I honestly, again, have no idea what to expect.
And, of course, there wouldn't be a meeting between the Leafs and Panthers without Brad Marchand giving his weekly assessment, it feels, of the Maple Leafs. This is what he had to say yesterday.
I mean, what are we, 25 games in? If you think that your playoff dreams are done, 25 games in, you got bigger problems. I know they don't think that in the room. It's just obviously with the media attention and the fan support that they have in Toronto, things get blown way out of proportion up there. But yeah, they definitely don't think that in the room. What are they, 4 points out of playoff spot? Or if people are thinking they're out of playoff spot for the season, they got to find a new job.
Well, clearly Brad Marchand's been playing games this year because he hasn't watched the 25 Maple Leafs games to jump to that assessment that this team is not a playoff team. But nevertheless, he is the voice of reason. You talk about rent-free, you look up that phrase in the dictionary, you'll find a picture of Brad Marchand in Toronto, man. Like, he owns this team. He owns this market.
Yeah, and they ask about the Leafs or whatever. And I agree with what he said.
Yes.
Because he's been busy with his business, and then he looks over, knows who the Maple Leafs are and who they have on the team, sees the points, and that's his conclusion. Yeah. But like you said, the way they have been playing, it is not a playoff team, and they are in jeopardy of missing the playoffs. But like he says, you look at the standings, and for some reason, they're not even close to out of it. But you have to figure out your hockey team, and you have to start playing better hockey. So, he's not going to throw shade at the Leafs. He's got his own problems over there with where they're at in the standings and where the type of hockey they've been playing. So the last thing he's going to do is throw shade. He's going to give the compliments and stuff. I don't even think that was that much mind games, head games, any of that. He's in no position with where his team's at right now. But it's just funny because we have watched the hockey we've watched. We see the product that's been on the ice, and we see the record that they have in all different areas and all the numbers and the eye test. And there's no way to spin it. This has been a horrendous beginning to the season, but some way, somehow in that Atlantic division, they are not far out of a playoff spot. So get your shit on track. Show us something, man. Like it absolutely could happen. I'm just waiting for a sign of it, I guess.
He knows exactly what he's doing, okay? I'm not going to protect Brad Marchand here. He knows exactly what he's doing. If you were to ask him off the record how he feels about this organization and team, he'd tell you it's a joke, not to speak for him. But that's, in effect, that's what he's telling us. He thinks the Maple Leafs are shit. He thinks these guys are nothing. He can walk all over them. That's why Tkachuk last year, that's why Marchand, we saw it in the Amazon series. They're just giving it to these guys during that series. And it just, we continue to take the bait as a market. It's kind of funny. Like, I don't need to rush over to Brad Marchand, the voice of reason in the NHL, to ask him how he feels about the Maple Leafs. It's just amazing. Every time that quote comes in, people are like, can you believe how respectful Brad Marchand is of the Maple Leafs? Like, if you recall last June, Rosie, wasn't he supposed to sign with the Leafs? Wasn't he building a market, going to be a Leaf? And he's not a Leaf last time I checked.
Well, he has fun on Twitter just like the rest of us, but
Yeah.
I don't think anything he said was dishonest or not what
No.
he's right. They are 4 points out of a playoff spot. And if you think their season's done, it's simply not, just mathematically and statistically and everything else. They're in a terrible spot. No one expected it. They're not playing hockey, and there's no reason to put a monster bet on them to make the playoffs. I 100% agree. We've covered that thoroughly. But what he said, I don't think there's a lot of mind games, simply because he's not in a position to do mind games. This is a battle for the last place in the entire East. He's not going to say anything other than that. And I don't think it's even that. There's nothing he said that wasn't true. This season, the position they are in right now, it could go either way. It could be team load up at the deadline or team tank for the top 5 pick. Like, I don't know which one that is. I know they're capable of a lot of variation of hockey out there, and I can't predict the future. I have no idea what this team's going to do, but they are not out of the playoffs. They're 4 points out. It's crazy, man. And they're goddamn lucky that the hockey they've played, that they're playing the Florida Panthers right now to pass the Florida Panthers. It's kind of unfathomable the way the beginning first 25 games of this season has unfolded.
I got to talk to Masters about some follow-up questions, and maybe you ask Brad, like, hey, that's weird. You have as many points as the Maple Leafs, and you're what, 5-6 points out of a playoff spot. What's going on with your Florida Panthers? Or, hey, Brad, the Boston Bruins, who dealt you at last year's trade deadline, are ahead of you in the standings. What's going on with the Florida Panthers? There's a way to spin this. It just boggles my mind that every time it's the Leafs against Brad Marchand, this guy's got a ridiculous quote that we run with in this market. We're doing it right now. And it's just like, I don't understand how he's the voice of reason. Even Matthew Tkachuk last year talking about the Toronto media being too hard on the players. Like, what are we doing here? This guy's an all-time troll, and I'll genuinely be disappointed when Brad Marchand hangs him up. He's never going to be a Leaf. The best was last year when he talked about how he was a lifelong Leaf fan as a child growing up. Remember that? Like, this guy is just playing this market like a fiddle, and he has owned this team. How many times has Brad Marchand beat the Maple Leafs in the playoffs? Like 5 times, 5 different occasions now?
Well, he's a clutch playoff performer playing in their division, so it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
I have this feeling he's got your number, Nicky boy. He's in your head.
Yeah.
I think he's got things twirling around upstairs for you is what's happening.
Well, it's more so like, grand scheme of things, why do we keep running to Marchand for quotes? Like, I don't understand that. There's so many winners and gamers in that room and guys who have been in this division for 10 years, yet we're going to Brad Marchand for quotes and asking him about a team he knows nothing about in the Maple Leafs. Like, and if I'm the Leafs, I'm using that as fuel. Like, oh yeah, like you're gonna be a smart ass and a smart aleck about our team. Let's give it to you. Like, I really want to see an effort tonight. And you laugh because that's never gonna happen from this Leafs team, but do you think, players' mentality, you're the former player, you're entering this rematch, they embarrass you in game 5 and game 7. Granted, this one's on the road. They were actually good in Sunrise last year. I was there for a couple of them. Do you even think about this game for the Maple Leafs, the fact that this is the team that beat you out last year?
Yeah, I do. They are aware of it, obviously. Is that going to scare them and intimidate them? Is that going to motivate them? Are they going to just dismiss the fact that what happened last year happened? Did they take sight of the fact that they're in a battle for the basement? Do they think they've got them in a vulnerable position? Do they think that they're going to come out hot as hell having their number? I don't know what they think about it, but they're certainly aware of it. And again, like, the only thing that matters is their level of play and their approach to this game. And yeah, show me something to get behind. Show us that you're putting some ducks in a row, and here's an opportunity to do so. But I mean, how many times where they have an opportunity to show us something and to get things on track and to show anyone who's watching themselves that they understand the assignment and know how to direct this team, and they absolutely dropped the ball. So again, I can't predict the future. I don't know what's going on. I didn't watch the whole interview though, but like, yeah, what about where you're at with the Panthers? Maybe they did, and it's just not the click, because guys like you take whatever Marchand says and runs with it and hates it and spins it or whatever. I just chuckle at it. I think that's just an honest answer that he gave, and everyone thinks it's this deep layered mind fuck of a thing from Brad Marchand. He's very capable of that, and he does it all the time, but I just don't think he has any position where his team's at right now to do anything but just give an honest answer. And he's like, we know they're a good team. They took us to 7 last year. They're 4 points out of a playoff spot. It's 25 games in. There's a lot of hockey to play. If you think they're out, you're an idiot. And I think that's true. I've never said that they're out, but there's times in this market where you watch closely where you're like, oh my God, look at how bad it is, and how on earth can we start to think positively about the team. So it's typical Maple Leaf shit. It's very leafy where they're at right now. Like the fucking Panthers are in the basement of the East, but guess what? So are the Leafs. Like out of the blue, out of the blue. Every team that's been a juggernaut for the last decade, that's had the Leafs number when they had really strong teams and whatnot, they're all floundering, and this division is up for grabs, and they could easily be this powerhouse that nobody else can contend with for once. No, they're in the fucking basement along with the other ones. Like, it's so leafy the first 25 games of this season.
And just to sum it up, I would say the great thing about Brad Marchand is that he backs it up too, right? He'll talk the shit, but then do it. And he did it time and time again, even last year, just giving the flowers to the Maple Leafs and scoring in Game 3 to give the Panthers life in that series. Our Super Chat charity partner is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. JD Anderson Comedy, thank you so much for the Super Chat. What would it take to get Rosie to suit up for a 4th-line wing position tonight?
People keep saying that on Twitter, like a 40-year-old man. You see Ovechkin the other night, like beer league follow.
Where is he at in his career, Rosie Ovi? Your boy Ovi, man. Watching that game, I'm like, he is on the back 9.
Well, if that's what Ovi looks like with the shape he's in and the ability he has, can you imagine me out there? I did a charity game a couple of years ago and felt a little silky at times, and then the puck felt like an anvil at times, but I wouldn't mind running around like a mutant pretending there's no puck out there just to look back at the guys and say, is there any of that in your fucking games? Because you have talent coming out the yin-yang that would embarrass me, yet somehow you're not capable of doing the simplest thing out there and just imposing your will and driving anything into this game. They just go flat all the time, and then the horn rings and the game's over and they're embarrassed. That's what always shocks me.
Saturday was nice, and we're going to talk a bit about that game as we get set for Leafs Panthers here on a Tuesday night. Are you the kind of Toronto sports fan who rides every high, curses every low, and still shows up for more? Then you need to check out Off the Roster, your new must-listen to Toronto sports show. By the way, I found out your old coach, Randy Carlisle, is going to be Off the Roster, I believe, tomorrow or Thursday. Catch Cabby, Lindsay Dunn, and Dan Riccio every weekday morning at 10 a.m. on the Nation Network YouTube channel and anywhere you stream your podcast. Toronto sports isn't just something to watch. It's a culture. Off the Roster, the new sound in the 6. Don't you dare miss it. And Rosie, we got Jeff Marek coming on today's podcast from The Sheet. Looking forward to what he has to say about the Maple Leafs here.
Randy, he's going to be on there, and then Jeffrey for us. I got it. Okay, Randy, he's going to come off as a good guy. I'll tell you that right now. People are going to be surprised. He's a dickhead of a coach, but I think he's probably a nice guy, and I guess we'll see on that show, so tune in and see if I'm wrong or not. But then, yes, young Jeffrey as well. Both of you guys battling sicknesses lately.
Yeah.
That the listeners have to listen to the phlegm wads building up in your throats and the snot bubbles coming out of your nose.
It's been a struggle. Yeah, it's been about an 8-day struggle. I got some neck pain going on, too. I don't know what the hell is going on, but looking forward to Jeff Marek coming on in about 20 minutes here at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. This segment is brought to you by Table Fare and Social, your go-to pregame and postgame spot, located right across the street from the arena and just steps from Union Station and the Metrolinx bus terminal. Table Fare and Social has you covered with a wide selection of food, cold drinks, and great vibes. Whether you're rolling in with the crew, grabbing a bite with the family, or meeting up after work drinks, Table Fare and Social has a table ready for you. Grab a pregame burger at Table Fare and Social right across from the arena. So it's Leafs and Panthers, and I would say through 4 games feel okay. I mean, they're 2-2-0. They got 2 more left, maybe the 2 hardest ones in the Panthers and Carolina. But hypothetically, if they split this 6-gamer, I feel decently about it. How about you?
I think everyone was talking about going 500 on this thing is a must. That Penguins win was huge. It seemed like the sky was falling on, what was it, the Thursday night? My week's just up in the air. What was that horrendous the Washington game, right, where they gave it away?
Friday night.
I was just like, oh God, if they get embarrassed or anything but a really good effort and basically a win against Pittsburgh, I mean, Berube will get fired probably, and like heads will roll. Like, you can only do so much in this market without consequences. And then they pull off this Pittsburgh game. So again, I don't know what to expect here. It is so weird. Like, nobody in a million years would have predicted this. Here's their record. Here's what's going on. Here's what happened last game. Here's their opponent. Here's what's going on with their opponent. Like, what? This is the Tuesday Florida Panthers Leafs game, a jostling match for the basement of the Eastern Conference. Wild. I don't know who's going to take this. I don't know who's going to play well. I know Joseph Woll is kind of the shining positive going on in the market right now. Bobrovsky has been beatable, certainly not his best. They're banged up just like we've been dinged up. Going 500 on this roadie, I think, is a must. And if you can be a point or two above 500, I think people are going to start talking about the possibility of them starting to climb into that playoff spot. That's how thin the margins are. It's crazy.
It is. I mean, a couple wins this way, a couple losses that way, and it really separates a bit in the standings. But that has been the theme here in the Eastern Conference so far. We talked about Florida. Again, all eyes on the Maple Leafs, of course, but the Florida Panthers have really, really struggled, and they have that built-in excuse again. Oh, we're all injured. I get that, but the Maple Leafs can sort of use that excuse too. And it should be 2 desperate teams tonight. But I want to get your thoughts on. You remember way back when in camp we speculated about lines and we thought about McMahon, Waugh, and Joshua. Is that what Craig Berube envisioned when he started the season with that trio? I thought they were really good against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that was kind of the theme as well in the beginning of the year. Like, the lines just could never stay the same. And I've been vocal about when Scott Laughton is healthy, for some reason, he just like stabilized. Like, it seems like every time Scott Laughton is playing, the lines look like they should be. And every time he's out, it's like, what the hell is this iteration? And not throwing, questioning any of the coaching staff's, decisions, but it's just what the hand they have dealt. And yeah, that line, McMahon, Joshua, and Waugh, like, I think that's what the heads of this team envisioned when they tried to build this team with what they had and who they signed and traded for. I think lines like this that, show potential. I mean, all those guys should be able to play heavy, which means be mean, finish all your checks, give a guy an extra shot, be big with your chest out every whistle around both nets, FU attitude. But they can all play. They can all, Bobby McMahon can skate. He can shoot. Nick Waugh has big upside and has been one of the 3 guys that has stood out above the others. And Joshua, had a good comeback performance after getting ripped by pretty much everyone in the market for how useless he's been. Looked pretty damn good. And showed that he has an upside against Pittsburgh. So yeah, that's a line that I think they envisioned doing great things in this market in a perfect world. It has been far from perfect so far, but here's an opportunity for them to get something going and maybe solidify themselves as a line, which I think they kind of desperately need these days.
So I guess Craig Berube's talking right now. Not much of an update. Producer Vic wants us to address this, but Berube on Anthony Stolarz, no real improvement. Okay. And Berube on Brandon Carlo, who says he'll miss extended time. He has to get something done. It didn't go the way we thought. Remember a couple of days ago, we talked about Carlo potentially returning for this game. So Carlo and Stolarz, nowhere to be found.
Like, Carlo sounds like he's done till the spring.
Yeah.
And no improvement from Stoli. Like, several weeks, nothing improves. I am a rickety old man by many accounts, and in a couple of weeks everything feels a little better, doesn't it? I don't know what to say about that. It's not good news at all. And I really think, thankfully for everybody, this team, Wool has been kicking in there and giving them a chance every night. And again, he's one of the one positives that's standing out as something that you can talk about that says, well, at least we have this. And there's not much to talk about these days. But I really think that getting Stolarz and him switch hitting the crease would be a really good thing for both of them. And again, terrible news, doesn't sound like either of them are close. And Carlo sounds like, we might not be talking about him for months.
Yeah. And I would just give some love as well to Dennis Hildeby too, right? I thought he was great against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I think he has been, you hate to use any reason because this team is in a hole right now, but he's been a positive light in a negative light type season for the Maple Leafs. So that's good news. And it sounds like Hildeby is going to be the guy for the long term, right? With Stolarz not even skating. And I feel bad because I came out here when Stoli went down and I'm like, oh, it feels more like a reset. And they said day to day, and you got the sense like we're going to see him maybe in 4 or 5 days. And now you get the sense like we're not going to see this guy maybe till January or February.
I know. Isn't it just so standard where
Crazy.
day to day and we're just like, well, we'll just take zero stock into that because like how many times can you, I don't know. I don't want to like say that it's on anyone or point fingers, but it's like crying wolf. Like, okay, well, we don't believe anything you say anymore because nothing you say comes true. And everything is not like just about everyone. Which injury has not been exponentially longer than what was reported? Can you think of one? They're
Not
all longer,
Yeah.
and some of them are just grotesquely longer, a la Stolarz and Carlo right now. So brutal news. I don't know what to say about it. Like I know, like they're so hush hush as if they're, targeting is like the number one, problem with the organization. It's just like, okay, like just be normal about injuries is all anyone really asks. And again, sometimes a guy doesn't respond to treatment sometimes, but I mean, if you need an MRI, you get it in the morning. If you need an x-ray, it's in the room. They have 4 doctors standing around and the best physio guys, kinesiologists, like everybody is at your disposal. How do they fuck that up so bad? Like an 80-year-old guy could walk into the physio in my hometown and they're like, this is what's going on. This is what you can expect. And it pretty much follows that suit. I don't get how they can miss by months with these pro athletes on this specific team, but it's becoming obviously a pattern, very frustrating. But again, not pointing fingers or anything, but just so standard for the Leafs that you're like, I think Carlo might play this weekend. No, he's going under the knife and we might not see him before the deadline. It was like, okay, wicked news. But, we just switched Stolarz for Wool. Luckily, Wool's standing on his head in whatever issues he had going on personally. By all accounts, from what we can see, have been rectified, and thank goodness for that.
Yeah, the Carlo one's tough because I had envisioned in my mind already, like they're going to try to trade this guy before the deadline, right? Get what you can. They got to make up some draft picks and some assets. And I just don't know at this point if they're going to have enough time to sweeten it up and get a guy like Carlo back in the lineup and playing the way he is and have a team interested in paying, something for a guy like Brandon Carlo. The cap it's still pretty nice, but you got to get him back motivated and playing the right type of hockey. But yeah, that's just the latest blow for the Maple Leafs. I will say it happens to a lot of teams, every team, even like in Vancouver right now. Thatcher Demko, I think they were saying 2 to 3 weeks. It's 3 weeks. He's not even skating. So as great as it sounds here in Toronto, I think it's across the league, and it's difficult. It's unfortunate. Again, you're right. When we cover this team on a daily basis and we see that, we're like, well, how much stock do we put in the day-to-day, or he's fine? Like, you really can't put any stock at all now.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to start anything, but like, is there a lot more injuries than there used to be? Like, it seems like every team's decimated by injuries. Guys get whatever happened and they just leave the game inexplicably. And you're like, really? That you can't play anymore? And again, not trying to throw shade, but I would like to know the numbers on man games lost to injury. I don't know, this season compared to, 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 3 years ago. I just like to see it. Just, I don't know, maybe just the way we're reporting or the timing of it. It seems like everyone is decimated by injuries. And I just wonder if that's a pattern, maybe something to look into.
Yeah, I think it's got to be the condensed schedule, the Olympic year. It's only going to get worse too, right? Over the next couple weeks leading up into February, where we got to smash a bunch of games. I believe in a couple weeks' time, we're going to have a 57 game slate in the NHL, 55 games this week, man. That's effectively at least 5 or 6 every night. And there's the couple big nights, right? With the Thursday, the Saturday. So it's, yeah, I mean, I think that is a factor. You can speak to it, how different the game has become, right? Where guys are just so banged up and it's just tough to go these days.
But on the other hand, like these guys, like, in my day and then the generation before that, like doing a bit of stretching or a dynamic warm up in my day was like, look at this guy. Like, what book did you read? Most guys are reading a paper, flipping through something and having a coffee with a heat pack on their back. These guys are in the best shape of their lives. They have a regiment that is completely tailored towards being healthy, being in shape, having your body work. It's not nearly as guys used to crash and hit and bang and fight and muck. And it's just like you would think the injuries would go down, I guess is what I'm saying. It's less physical. They're in way better shape. They take 10 times better care of their body. You'd think the injuries would go down, but like you said, other factors, and maybe they aren't as tough as they used to be. Let's call it that too. That's very possible as well. But nonetheless, they do have a tough schedule and they are ripping games off like crazy. And you don't want to play through things and jeopardize your career. So a multitude of factors, I'm sure, but I do find my eyebrows raised going, what is with all of this injury issues? I'm probably looking into it too deeply though.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as we bring in today's guest, Jeff Marek. And Marek, I was thinking maybe a tell-all podcast of the sheet with you, Jack Hughes, Alexei Torpachenko, Eetu Luosterainen. Like, what are with some of these injuries, like burn victims? What are we doing here?
Okay, so first of all, everybody in the NHL right now, there's no reason why any team does. You know how teams employ like chefs for the entire team, and a lot of teams will leave practice with their own little sort of knapsack full of food, little doggy bag for everybody on the. No. This has got to be next level now. NHL player can come anywhere near a kitchen or glass or cutlery or anything. You want to do as much bubble wrapping of a player as possible. No barbecues. You know, there's always those sort of like clauses in player contracts. No skydiving. Once upon a time, a lot of teams wouldn't allow their athletes to ride motorcycles, for example. Like, are we getting to the point now where there's so much money invested in players that they're not allowed to prepare their own meals anymore? They're not allowed to go near a barbecue. Like, I remember when Archer's Herbe when he got bitten by his dog, and he was just petting his dog, and maybe his dog was asleep or something like that, and it woke up suddenly and it bit his hand and it screwed up the nerves in his hand, and he had to change the way that he played net in the NHL. We looked at that and said, okay, that's a one-off, that's a freak. But now we've got this run of like bizarro injuries, and we're not even at Christmas. And I'll take it one step further as well. Like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Rosie, like, it does feel like there are more injuries so far this season. But another thing is up as well this season, and that's fighting. And I would argue that dirty fighting is starting to make a return to the NHL, because there's a lot of players that don't necessarily do it. And even the guys that do, and this is more of the bailiwick of Rosie here than you and me, Nick. We're going to take a back seat on this one here. But it seems starting to see the return of guys ignoring, and I know it's a very thinly veiled term, avoiding the code wherever they can. And we saw it last night. And we saw it on the weekend. And there's one thing in specific that I was going to ask if I could ask Rosie about this at the end of the interview, but here we are. Is there an unwritten rule about not punching a guy when the fight goes to the ice? Because we saw Logan Stanley and Michael McCarron over the weekend, and Stanley McCarron go down, and McCarron keeps throwing. And then Stanley barked at him, and Jonathan Taves barked at him as well. I'm pretty sure it was about the punch when the other player is down. And then last night, Voronkov and Brendan Dillon go at it, and Voronkov gets the better of Dillon. You can argue he jumped him, when did the fight start, all of it, whatever. Steph Nason takes it in his own hands later. Voronkov pulls down Nason early, doesn't hit him, allows him to get back up, pulls him down again, doesn't hit him. Nason gets back up again. They engage. They both go down. and Nason hits him with a couple while they're on the ice. Is that, Jay Rosehill, a code violation?
Oh, the code. The code's funny because people talk about it like in the 80s or 90s, like none of that stuff happened, where I can have pictures of a guy straddling another guy on his back and just like Wendell Clark. Go watch his highlight. He's
Bob
just
Brook.
double fisting, hammering this guy. There's
Bob Brook.
two
Yes.
like blatant 2-on-1s, bare knuckle punch. Like, and in my mind, everyone knows the difference between right and wrong, and it's whether this guy has your respect or not. If two guys that respect each other are going, like I think about Sean Thornton, who I fought a bunch of times, and there's times where we did things that we might not have done to others to help him up. One time I slipped out and was completely spun around. He could have absolutely taken advantage, and he let me back up. Yeah. Things like that. And if you don't respect the guy and he's done something and you can't stand him, if he goes down, you are trying to get your arm free from that line just to give him another shot. You want to inflict as much as you can on this guy because you can't stand him. He did something that drove you nuts. And then there's the other side where you're in a similar situation. It's a fight, but you respect the guy, so you give him the leeway. You let him back up. You don't hit him when he's down. So it's two different things. Everybody knows what right and wrong is. And if you respect the guy or the situation, then you're going to provide that level of respect. And if not, you're going to let him have it.
Can I tell a quick story? Nick, I'm asking you as a host, will you give me the floor for 2 seconds? Because you mentioned Sean Thornton here. So Sean Pearson is a good buddy of mine. So Sean, former MMA fighter, our kids play hockey together. He lives around the corner from me. Sean and I are good buddies. We work out together. Every now and then he wants to spar in the gym. Let's just do takedowns. I've never come close. Let's just do shoulders and knees. I've never come close. So Sean had like 7 fights, I think, at welterweight in UFC. And he's playing men's league in Whitby, and it's him on the team, and Sean Thornton's on the team too. And Pearson's out there, so everyone's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take a run at the MMA guy. I'm gonna take a run at the UFC guy." And one guy hits Sean and splashes him up against the glass, right? And he goes down, and Thornton comes in right away, takes the guy out. Like, you're not doing that. I don't care who it is. You're not doing that. And Pearson tells me, he goes over to Thornton in the dressing room after, and he goes, listen, I appreciate you coming in on my behalf, but, I kind of do this for a living. Like, I can kind of take care of myself. I appreciate it. And Thornton goes, no. You don't understand. That happened on the ice. On the ice, that's my fight. Now we're going to the bar. If there's a problem, it's your fight. I love that line from Sean Thornton. We're going to the bar now. If there's problems, it's your fight, Pearson. On the ice, it's mine.
One of the best.
I like that too. You can't turn it like for a guy like Thornton to see anything happen, whether the guy can handle himself or not. Like, you're going in there, right? And if I'm playing beside Colton Orr and someone, cheap shots, I'm flying in there, and it's not because Colton Orr can't take care of himself. It's because there's just a precedent of your mind where I don't allow that stuff to happen. And I'm sure that's where Thornton was too. And I like that too. Like in the bars and stuff, I am the peacekeeper. I've never wanted to go outside or any of that. And my biggest fear was like messing with this little guy and like not noticing his cauliflower ear, going outside and getting spooned. Nothing fun about that.
Yep.
It's always great hearing those stories.
Watch the ears. Watch the ears. Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. No, I wanted to get to this Leafs Panthers matchup and Brad Marchand's latest quote. What did you make of that, and why should I care what Brad Marchand has to say about the Maple Leafs?
He's in Nick's head.
Brad Marchand lives in everybody's head, and it only works if you allow him to. He's teaching everybody a great lesson here about how, and like, first of all, Brad doesn't do anything frivolously. I don't believe. I don't think you guys believe that Brad Marchand does anything frivolously at all. Everything he does on the ice is deliberate, and everything he says off the ice is deliberate. And a lot of it has a thin veil of a compliment when really it's just turning the dagger even more, turning the heat up and turning the dagger even more. I think why it burns is, I think what Brad Marchand understands is where the sensitive spots are on teams, and the sensitivities are always where things are the weakest. And where things are the weakest for the Toronto Maple Leafs are where they're true, right? And I think we're used to in the NHL, people sort of always sort of covering up reality to produce a nice, respectful story. But Brad Marchand is not shy about, even though he may phrase it as a compliment, he's really it's really a backhand compliment, and he's the master of it. Why does he live in your head? Because you allow him to. There's a great lesson. There's a great lesson that I learned years and years ago from a yoga teacher. We were talking about criticism, and she said, "How do you handle criticism?" And I said, "Well, listen, I've chosen to live my profession, my profession publicly, so I assume that everyone's going to take a shot. I get it. Like that's the nature of the business, assumed risk." And she said, "Here's what you need to understand." I said, "What's that?" She goes, "In your life, you're going to meet people who love you, and you're going to meet people who hate you. And what your job is to understand is none of it has anything to do with you. That's just where they are in their life." So that, Nick, is my long-winded answer of saying that's more about you than him.
Funny, I'm newer to this game than you guys are, and the first couple negative comments or something, I'm just like, oh, like, do I change what I do, and what does he mean by that? And
No,
and then sometimes
never.
you'll write back or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, I forgot you followed me. What's up, Rosie? How's it going? And then we're buddies. It's like, oh, you didn't really like. It's weird, right? And I've learned now that who these people are and why they're doing it doesn't really have anything to do with you. They just need to
Nothing to do
vent
with
or
you.
get something. It's funny, and now I couldn't care less. It's kind of funny, but it takes a while to learn. But with what Marchand said, like going to the Leafs, whether that was backhanded or spinning the dagger, like I think he just said what he believes because he doesn't really have a leg to stand on to be playing mind games right now with where his team's at. But what he did say is they're 4 points out. They actually have a lot of good pieces in there. And if you think they're out of the playoffs, you're crazy. Do you take stock to that? Do you agree with it?
I think that, first of all, I think that it's bizarre that here we are on December 2nd, and the matchup tonight between the Eastern Conference's bottom two teams are Florida and Toronto. Like, hands up who said that would be a thing on December the 2nd. Technically, he's right, because the East, outside of, like, look, Tampa's on a run right now, and they look really good. Carolina is always consistent, and that's a really good team. But nobody has really distinguished themselves like Colorado has, like Dallas has, of recent note, like the Minnesota Wild have. No one's really jumped out and distinguished themselves in the Eastern Conference yet. So everybody technically is still in it. I think from a Maple Leafs point of view, though, I just don't see any evidence so far. And again, health is, of course, a mitigating factor, although don't tell Tampa that. I just don't see any evidence that this team has right now any evidence laid before us that they can go on any kind of run that's going to get them back into the conversation. Technically, he's right, but we all watch the games. You guys watch more of it than I do. Am I off base here? Like, am I missing something? Like, should I be seeing something here that as a Maple Leafs fan would give you reason to say, don't worry, they can go 8 for their next 10? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's my thinking too, is like, yeah, it was great to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins, but I think the biggest thing now, America, is consistency and stringing a bunch of games together. Like I'm at a point, I've been very positive with this team. I'm at a point where I'm not out, but I want to see something now. I don't know if you're the same way with this Maple Leafs team.
Yeah, I think you're with the Maple Leafs on that, because now here we are. This is like the first evaluation, right? Like if you just go quarterly to quarterly to quarter, like this is the first evaluation of your team. Okay, so we have enough runway here. We've had a look under the hood. We've seen this car drive in the city. We've seen this the car drive on the highway. We know what it can do. Now, how do we react? Positively, negatively, or are we still in wait and see mode? And right now, if you're a Maple Leafs fan or if you're in the Maple Leafs organization, you're a combination of you're not impressed, but you're still a little bit in wait and see mode. That has to change probably soon, or else the season just completely gets away from you. And as we all know, the pressures in the city and the pressures on the general manager, I don't think that they're going to look at this and say, you know what, it's not there this year. Let's take a step back. I don't think that this organization right now with these players and this management group is built that way and want to do that, although some may maintain it would be the smartest thing to do. I think the pressures are going to be immense to try to do something. And when you have your back up against the wall like that, sometimes you get rushed into making moves that otherwise, A, wouldn't be prudent, and B, you don't want to make. That's the scary thing about this Maple Leaf situation right now. But having said that, you look at the Atlantic, and outside of Tampa, like, who's jumping out at you that you say, like, A, they're playing great, and B, we can see it sustain. And I think maybe that's part of what Brad Marchand is saying as well. Like, this is still a really good team here with really good pieces. They haven't hit their stride, and nobody else is really distinguishing themselves. And no one really believes that a lot of the teams that are in there can do this long term, including Brad Marchand's old team, the Boston Bruins.
Mm-hmm. And I guess you kind of touched on it there in your answer of this organization's probably not wired to take that step back, but everyone's had their opinion with what's going on. Fire this guy, fire that guy, tank for this, or rebuild, or trade everyone, or stay the course. What is it for you? Is there a line? You know, people talk about American Thanksgiving, people talk about Christmas. Is there a line for you where you're like, there's no coming back from it this season, and you think that they would need to change course? What is that date or situation for you?
Great question. This year's the freak in the Eastern Conference, right? In the West, some teams have already bottomed out, right? Like the Nashville Predators are Exhibit A. Teams have bottomed out in the West. Teams haven't completely bottomed out in the East yet, which is why I still don't think we have a line yet. Like, there's a lot of extra points floating out there every single night, right? There's a lot of bonus points that are floating out there. You know, there's the number we talk about, you know, is our injuries up? Feels like it. Is fighting up? Yes, fighting is up. And also, our extra points being handed out up. And the answer is yeah. There's a lot more specifically in the East than in the West. There's a lot of bonus points that are floating out there. A lot of teams going into overtime, or a lot of games going into overtime, a lot of games going to shootouts right now. And that's why everything is so packed and everything is so clogged. Now, you can call it, this is parity. You can say this is mediocrity. And really, we're just doing a semantic dance by saying nobody's out of it, because there's always bonus points that are floating around that perhaps you can say artificially makes everybody look more similar than different, and really just sort of pushes that Thanksgiving line, Rosie, further down the road. But I don't think we have a date yet or a line, because this is, like, I'll be honest, this is a freakish year. This is a freakish year for trying to figure out, like, what's fool's gold, who's legit, who's a pretender, who's a contender, all those things. This year's been a freak so far. In the East.
They're lucky, ... You can make that case for several teams, specifically in the Eastern Conference. But let's put over one of our friends, Bruce Boudreau. An evolving story again this year has been this power play, man. They're unwatchable, 10 for 63. Gabby wants to coach. He wants to be in the Leafs organization. I don't know why they don't at least make a call. You want to be an advisor? Like, I think he can do wonders for this power play. Do you agree?
So, well, yeah. And the other thing about Gabby, too, is, like, right away when you talk about, you know, morale and spirit of the team, you know what Gabby does to a room. And I do understand, like, whenever I say that, I'm always reminded of myself whenever you hear, like, oh, he's a good guy in the room. Yeah, Marek, they don't flood the room. Okay, buddy? Like, they don't flood the room. Like, I want players. But, you know, 82 games is a long time. And, you know, January, February, and the dog days, like, it's a long time. You need some positivity around, and Gabby brings that as well. I will tell you one thing about Bruce, and he's always maintained this, and I believe this is true even to this day. Bruce Boudreau has always wanted to, and still does, want to be a head coach in the NHL. He sees himself as a head coach. He's been a head coach. He's had success at every single level. Like, he's won every single championship that he could, except for the Stanley Cup. The only team, he's always said this, the only team that he would work as an assistant for are the Toronto Maple Leafs. You know, that's the team, you know, in the west end of Toronto where he grew up. That's the team he grew up cheering for. That's a team that he played for in the NHL. That's the one team that he still has a strong affinity for as a player, and that's the one team that he's always wanted to be in his professional coaching life associated with. So to your point, Nick, like, if it was for one specific duty or one specific assistant coach role, I think Bruce Boudreau would be more than interested in killing our podcast and jumping behind the bench for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Well, speaking of coaches, there's 3 or 4 low points that stand out in my mind from this season. A lot of noise about everything and anything, including firing Craig Berube. What was, during those low points, your take on that position?
Boy, well, first of all, like I've always maintained, if your goal is to win the Stanley Cup, you're kind of theoretically betting on the wrong horse from a historical point of view. There's only been 3 coaches in the history of the NHL who have ever won the Stanley Cup with multiple teams. There was Tommy Gorman, there was Dick Irvin Sr., and there was Scotty Bowman. Scotty actually won it with 3 teams, but he's the greatest coach of all time. That's it. If you're looking to play like the odds based on history, then you're better off getting someone who hasn't won the Stanley Cup before. Craig Berube, of course, won the Stanley Cup with the St. Louis Blues. Jordan Binnington was hot. The team caught on fire. A lot of the defensive groundwork had been laid by a previous coaching regime, and things just started to click after they refused to waive Jay Bouwmeester and didn't send Pat Maroon to the minors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and called up Jordan Binnington, and he went on this historic run. So I looked at the hiring initially skeptically, because if it's your goal to win the Stanley Cup, if you want to play the odds from history, you're better off to get a newbie who hasn't won the Stanley Cup. The odds are just more in your favor. I could understand it, because at that point, Rosie, everybody was looking for the excuse. I don't think that there was any appetite really from management to fire Brad Treliving. I know, every time the Leafs would lose, you check to see if Peter DeBoer's name was trending on Twitter. I get that. The one thing about DeBoer is that he can take really good teams and get them to a conference final, get them to a Stanley Cup final. Hasn't been able to get a team over that hump yet. But he has had a lot of success, most recently, of course, with Dallas, wherever he's gone. But I kind of looked at that, the coach, the fire the coach discussion as being really, really premature here.
What's coming up on the sheet today?
Me and Wyshynski are going to be talking about a number of things from the NHL last night. We're going to pick up that conversation about what we saw with the New Jersey Devils and the Columbus Blue Jackets yesterday. Also, and that was, I guess, who knew that Adam Fantilli could fight like that?
I know.
And
that
now
was good, eh?
he's fighting Siegenthaler, but still,
Still,
he was ready to throw right away. Normally, guys would just seatbelt a little bit and hug and tug. He was stretching out and throwing rights, and Siegenthaler didn't know what was going on. So
no tie down either for Siegenthaler, right?
That should be the extra right there.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna have a talk about the no helmet and warm up rule, which Greg wants to discuss today. Aaron Portzline, who writes for the Athletic on covering the Columbus Blue Jackets, will be aboard. I have to ask you a question though, Nick.
Go ahead.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
What's that? A new picture for my background here?
No, I do like that. I almost look identical, by the way, to that
probably wearing the same
picture
thing.
Of me.
Yeah.
In mid thought. No, it's the first time I've worn the Spud Kings, Idaho Spud Kings shirt, a legendary junior hockey. Spud Kings is a great name for a junior team. No, I'm going to get you a fanny pack for the next time you're at the gym. So you don't have to leave anything in the locker, don't have to leave anything behind. You're going to be that guy at the gym that travels with everything in his pockets and everything in the fanny pack. You, sir, are going to bring back the fanny pack. Now, Rosie, were you ever a fanny pack guy at the gym? Be honest.
I did live through the fanny pack era. I caught a little bit of it. Maybe my dad rocked one at Disney World or something, but that's about my extent
Men rock
of it.
purses now, guys. We got to get a purse for me.
Yeah, look at
okay.
This is a Maple Leafs show. The men around this organization rock Merces. Come on here, Jeffrey.
Okay. All right.
Haven't you seen the guys walking in the ring?
I honestly, I think I might be wrong. I think the fanny pack's a great look. Maybe I'm just dating myself here. I've never been bold enough to actually wear one in my gym because I can't take the roasting. But I kind of think I'm kind of waiting for the return of fanny packs. It's a great idea.
Logical.
I kind of think they look good too. But I might be in the minority on that one.
We're going to get the sheet logo on it, of course, the fanny pack, right? And that's going to be my gift for this year.
Or
right? Great stuff, Marek.
Or Spud Kings.
Thank you for reminding me about Friday. Really appreciate that. And have a great day.
Yeah, sorry about that. Salt on an open wound. Sorry about that, buddy.
It's
You
okay.
guys be good.
It's okay, buddy. Take
Thanks,
care.
Jeffrey.
Thanks, Rosie.
Yeah, you missed it yesterday, Rosie. I went on some tangent, called out the gym. Still pissed about it, but the good news is that requested all my cards back, so we're getting back in the right flow of things right now.
The only guy that loses his wallet and starts accusing everyone of picking his lock and going through.
Oh no, I didn't lose my wallet. My cards
were. Here we go.
No,
Wind him up again.
No, you sound like my brother. My brother's like, oh, like he was trying to place the blame on me. Like I let the thief into my locker to steal my cards. That's just the way he thinks. I'm like, yeah, I sent the guy an invitation. I said, break into my locker, grab my cards and roll on. Go buy something special.
Well, I'm pretty guilty. Like I'll go into the grocery store, leave my truck unlocked. I forget to lock the doors on my house. I go to the gym, I go to the pool, and I just leave my shit with my phone and my wallet in there. I live in a small town. There's not a lot of that, but it can happen anywhere. I am fairly lax about that. And the fact that you had a padlock or whatever on there says you kind of did all you can do. You were dealing with pros, man. Pros.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good general PSA because there are scumbags out there. It is the holiday season. I'm sure a lot of people scam, fraud, all that shit happens a lot this time of year. So yeah, important to get that note across. But thank you to Jeff Marek for dropping by. And I want to see the Leafs just give a bleep or give a fuck. We can say that on this podcast. I forgot. I just want to see a workman's type effort. A lot of what we saw the Saturday game, because I came on here yesterday, Rosie, and of course you weren't here, but like I just nothing really changed in my perspective or my stance in the Maple Leafs from over the weekend. They clobbered Pittsburgh, great, but the Washington game really pissed me off. I don't know if you saw it differently.
Yeah, I know. I mean, to me, each game is just dictates where the dial is on the temperature setting in the market. That's all I really notice. I don't know what this team's going to end up as. I do know that they have been trending in a terrible direction and have a history and a tendency to play horrendous hockey when they shouldn't, when they should have every reason in the world to really bear down. But then they'll surprise you, and then they'll show you some things that you want to get behind, but everyone's been hurt before, so they're hesitant to. So right now, all I go from game to game is just where is the temperature gauge, and you can go on the After Dark show with Zach and see what temperature he's feeling. He, he very much rolls with that gauge, and we all do. So again, I know what I want this team to do. I know what I want them to be doing in April. And again, I don't have any reason to plant a stake and say this is why I think they will be there. But every day I watch and we will see. Yes, that was good to see against Pittsburgh. It turned the temperature down. Now they've got a test here against a team that they don't have a lot of great track record against, that is considered a very good team, but is not having a good season at all, but has every reason to be hungry and bring their best. So I have no idea what this game's going to look like. I'm going to watch, and I know what I want to see. And I hope Joseph Wall is kicking, and I hope he gives them a chance. And I hope that bottom six is start to find an identity that works for them. I hope the big boys are gunslinging out there, and I hope everyone has a commitment to defense. I hope they play heavy and they bang and crash and have a chip on their shoulder. I hope there's 2 fights in the game. I hope all kinds of shit happens. But I'm tired of getting pretty fired up and being absolutely shocked. So again, like you, I'm going in with zero expectations, and I'm going to see what they have tonight.
Yeah, show me something. I mean, that's all I could pretty much say at this juncture. It's just been a massive, disappointing first 25 games to the season. I guess glass half full, half empty. They have 57 games left, but find that identity. It's pretty amazing. December 2nd, zero identity for this team, and maybe that's a launching pad, that game against the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm curious to see what we see from that McMahon-Waugh-Joshua line here against a team especially like the Florida Panthers. Just to wrap, Michael Kirkpatrick writes in the chat, if Carlo is ready, they'll put him in and sit out Benoit. I'm not sure he caught it earlier on, Michael, but Carlo's suffered a setback. So he'll be nowhere to be found for the, not the next, handful of games, weeks. We don't know. It sounds like Benoit's back in after he had, to deal with family matters over the weekend. So Mermis likely to be out, but we'll see what happens tonight in Florida. That's all you can pretty much say at this point in time. It's time now for the last call Brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION, NATION. Must be 19 or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit connexontario.ca. I think I got to hit Brad Marchand since, as you mentioned, he's in my head. I think he just owns the Maple Leafs rent-free. I think he's going to have himself a game. So Marchand, I think from the Leafs perspective, going to ride my boy OEL. We didn't talk about it today, but with another point tonight, he'd have a 10-game point streak, which would tie Tom Curvers, if you can believe it, for the longest point streak by a D in franchise history. OEL's on quite the run, so I'm going to play him tonight.
Former Minnesota Duluth Bulldog, Hobie Baker winner, Tom Curvers. Cool.
I think he still calls
the
games in Mini, no?
Does he really? Yeah, I know he's around.
I
just remember the banner hanging. I think they had 3 Hobie Bakers at the time, and Tom Curvers always stood out in my mind. And then during the rest of my hockey career, I kept hearing his name come up, and then obviously being on the pesky Maple Leafs. That's a good that's impressive for OEL. He has been their best defenseman so far. If you ask me, everyone's had their hiccups defensively and stuff, but he's having a hell of a season. Leafs are plus 140 here. Wow. The over-under, no one's touching the over-under. 6.5, and they're both minus 10. There's nothing but the juice there.
Dude, you've been dreaming about this for 3.5 years. How often we talked about this on this podcast, or you can't bet on the Leafs. Now is your time to bet on the Leafs, my man.
I'm going to put them on the money line. Joseph Wall, I think, kicks. And I'm not going to go heavy because they're famous for shocking you and doing the polar opposite of what you think. I've always been on the wrong I've been on the wrong side of it many times. I'm going to take the money line, though. Maple Leafs plus 140. So juicy. I love those plus numbers. And maybe parlay that with a Matthew Nyes anytime point. I think that kid's ready to find his stride.
You are a courageous, brave man, and regardless of what happens in this game, just the House of Horrors is, not even that arena, actually. The Leafs actually fare pretty well on the road. It's at home, and what they did last year in Game 5 and 7. But just give me a spirited effort, and maybe this is the turning point for this season. Maybe that was a launching pad victory against the Pittsburgh Penguins. I just hate the hope aspect of this all. We're just hoping for this team to figure it out, but we'll see what happens tonight. Coming up tomorrow, we got Doug MacLean coming on, former GM, head coach of the Florida Panthers, long time with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Always has a good take or two, right?
He's a good guy to wind up and tell some stories, and he's kind of half retired now, and he doesn't give a rip what he says. He's an absolute beauty. So seeing if we can stoke the fire a little bit there. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. So Doug MacLean coming up tomorrow. We'll have a full recap here of Leafs Panthers and also look ahead to the final stop on this 6-game road trip, Carolina, coming up on Thursday night. Thank you to everybody in the chat at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Also, thanks to Jeff Marek, producer Vic, for Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.